Hi YouTube. Today I'd like to show you how to make a topiary Christmas tree for decoration, and it will be completely free or almost free depending on what you already have. What you're going to need is some kind of a container. I have this one and this one, which is just an old brass container. This one I bought at a thrift store years ago for very little. This one I got many years ago with miniature daffodils in it. I actually bought several of these, and I planted the daffodils out in the yard when they were done blooming. They've come back every year and multiplied and been beautiful. And then I still have this little pot that I get to use. So I considered that free. You will also need this. The only thing you'll probably have to buy is some wire. This is floral wire. You can get it at any craft store like Michael's. This one happens to be a 26 gauge, and it probably will cost you between $2 and $4, I don't know. I've literally had this roll for probably 10 years because this is about all I use it for. I also have a roll of 22 gauge which you could use, but I find the thinner wires just a little easier to work with, and it's really all that's needed. You'll need some wire cutters, or a pair of very bad scissors that you don't mind ruining, and you'll need a pair of pruning shears, not absolutely necessary. Again, you could use scissors if you have to. There's not going to be a lot of heavy-duty trimming here. What we will use for the actual tree itself is creeping juniper, and this is what it looks like. It's a very common landscaping plant, and the reason I like it, I don't know how well you're picking this up, but it has a natural point at the top, and really all I'm going to be doing is combining 3 or 4 of these together to make what looks like a tall, thin Christmas tree. So let me get started, and I hope that you can see as I'm going along. You see this branch that is sticking out over here? We really don't want that, so I'm going to cut that off. And now there's quite a bit of bare branch at the bottom of this. I'm not going to, well, let me see. No, I have to trim that a bit because I don't want any bare branch showing. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention that is not absolutely necessary, but will make the whole process easier, is if you have what's called a flower frog. Mine is stuck down in the bottom of the pot, so I can't take it out. But do you see this thing that looks like a bunch of nails or needles sticking out? It just gives you something to press the branch down into. You could also use floral foam, or if you have a big enough container like this brass one, you could just fill it with sand or gravel and use that to anchor your tree. Now I'm probably going to be editing this video pretty heavily because there's a lot in here you just really don't need to see. Right now I'm just picking out my branches. I want 3 or 4, and I want them to be about the same length. They also sometimes have, can you see those pretty little pine cones on there? So cute. And you don't have to worry if some of the branches have bald spots. Like, notice this one has a big bald spot right about here. When these are all put together, you really won't notice that. And even if you do, if you find it distracting, you can always fix that by adding a little more greenery. Okay, now the only bad part about these is that they're really prickly. But the way you start is there's a top side, and then there's a back side which has the spine of the branch. And what we're trying to do is get 3 of the back sides together, almost like a triangular sort of an arrangement. I'm holding the bottoms of the stems together as best I can. It gets harder over the years with my gimpy left hand, but you see how I'm holding all of those together? I actually have to let go for a minute to get my wire. We're going to start wrapping wire from the bottom, and we're just going to loop the wire all the way around, up and up and up, and it will be hidden by the branches, and when we're done it will look sort of like a tree. It helps if you loop the wire tightly around one branch when you're starting so that you have some resistance. And you just start wrapping it around. And you want to wiggle it a little bit so that it doesn't mash the little branches flat. Just sort of squiggle it around in there. I'm holding the wire fairly tight to the little pallet here because it helps you get the tension and do all the little wiggly jigglies you need to do. And I'm just trying to keep those bald parts of the branch held together while I do this. I hope you can see what I'm doing. And you want to pull fairly tight as you go. It doesn't have to be super tight, but you certainly want to give the impression of one stem rather than three. And if you have to, you can always go back and add a fourth if you feel it's not full enough or one side's a little flat or a little bare. You can even cheat and go with just sort of individual sections rather than another whole long stem. I see that my back here is looking a little bald, so I might even add something in there while I'm at it. I have this nice big one here, and this tends to have a lot of dry stuff on it. You want to try to get as much of that off as you can. You don't have to be real picky, but I want to get some of it. And I'm going to try to hide the end of the stem down in there so we don't see it sticking out. Well, that still doesn't hit where I want it to. I'm going to put this one down even lower. There we go. I can always come back and tighten up the end of that. Turn this so I don't have to lean over so far. I can't see the display now, so I hope you're seeing it. It smells really nice and Christmassy. And this will last, a good couple of weeks. I do put water in it, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary, and I'm not sure it really helps anything. But I do it anyway. I make 2 of these that I put on the living room mantle next to some big white Santas that I have, and candles. And then I have one that I put in the family room with this brass bucket where I have some little nesting Santa Clauses. I'll try to show you the finished ones in place so you can get an idea of how they can be used. But I think they'd be pretty just out on a counter all by themselves. Okay, when you get to the end, just wrap it around a few times, rather tightly. and cut your wire. And you don't have to worry about it coming unraveled because it's wire, it'll just sort of stay there. Alright. Now, that, I don't know if you can see what it will look like. I'll get it in place and I'll put it in place and get a better picture for you. I'll be back. Okay, I'm going to do one more thing before I call it complete. You can see it's very tall, very thin, and I'll get you a full view in a minute. First I want to show you that it tends to be rather slim around the bottom. So to sort of beef it up a bit and make it look wider at the base, I take some branches and simply stick them in there. You don't even have to wire it or anything. You simply take it and place it down in there like that. I'm going to do that all the way around and you'll see how it gives a lot more fullness to the base. And there is the finished topiary. I hope that helps. Hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions, let me know. Take good care, folks, and Merry Christmas.